we're going to be addressing something that you most likely probably have experienced in your life. And that is heart palpitations and the psychosomatic stress behind it. Hi everyone, Evette Rose here, author and founder of Metaphysical Anatomy Technique, which is a wonderful, powerful, graceful healing technique that is also designed behind this book, which is a book of 607 medical ailments, which is the psychosomatic stress of adults. And yes, you guessed it, is one for kids as well. It's been recently released, almost just as big as the one for adults. So very, very exciting. If you are a parent, if you have kids, it'll be fantastic to help you to understand your child so much better. And also your patterns and how it's showing up in them. If you love to work with kids, fantastic. If you want to learn more about your own childhood, maybe there's things that's been unresolved that you want to learn more about, this is going to be a massive breakthrough for you. My brand new research that I've never, ever shared in public before. So guys, there you have it. So let's dive into today's topic. But also before we do, I just remember my weekly free masterclasses at evetterose.com. So guys, now let's officially jump in. Let's have a look at heart palpitations. There we have it. So this is a condition that I have absolutely experienced. And I'm sure that you've experienced it at some point in time in your life as well, when you were very, very stressed. Now, the heart is very much connected to our fight and flight response. So when we feel stressed, a lot of cortisol and adrenaline is being released, the heart's beating faster because it's getting ready to take action. There's cortisol, but sometimes in most cases what happens is that we don't take action because we're not back into our primitive years where ancestors might have had to immediately run from a predator. Because the visceral system of the body, the wiring of the instinctive responses in the reptilian mind, it's so primal, it's so old, and it takes a tremendous amount of time in order for it to change because it's been there from the get-go. Meaning, even when you look at to the point of organisms, when they had a consciousness, they didn't have instinctive responses like a reptilian mind. But remember, your instinctive responses are there to help you to survive, to stay alive. Now, even an organism like a bacteria or a virus, they have the capacity to recognize when their environment is starting to work against them, meaning it triggers the fear of dying. So that, of course, in one way or another, indirectly, is an instinctive response. They either have to adapt or die or find an alternative solution to survive. And that's how evolution starts. That's how it starts to progress so that we can become more resilient more and more and more in order to secure our survival as a species, or different types of species at least as well. So what happens now when we look at heart palpitations, and the reason why I brought up that example is because it's such a hardwired program that is taking place in the body when we have an instinctive response, that sometimes we can have something in our environment being triggered, a subconscious memory within us that can even be as far back as an ancestral memory. Maybe there's a certain level type of stress that creates a certain emotional frequency, intensity, and response in you that is the exact same heightened state as what an ancestor might have experienced. Or it could be that you've experienced similar emotional stress points that has now accumulated to the point where it's almost in alignment, almost like exactly the same as what an ancestor experience from the past. And that can be enough to trigger that fight and flight, that survival response. Normally when the heart palpitations start, that's because a very deep subconscious memory, such as the fear of dying, is being triggered. However, there's probably, in most cases, a very high chance that whatever it is that's taking place in your environment is not a life and death threat. It's an emotional threat. We have actually now developed and advanced to a point where we don't deal with a lot of life and death threats, which means that the focus has now shifted a lot to our emotions. Emotions were not as well understood. Not a lot of mindfulness practicing have been, assigned to us learning to understand, what is this feeling that I'm feeling right now? Instead, people would just impulsively act and react and say, well, that's just who I am. Instead of actually thinking, well, why is that pain there? Why is that wound there? Your wounds is not your identity. It only influences who you want to actually be at the end of the day. This can make your path a lot harder than what it actually really needs to be. But it doesn't have to be hard, but you can address it. You can resolve it. We're so intelligent. We have intuition. We have healing abilities. There's so much that you can do. I'm going to give you an example right now. And I just want to prove my argument, because a lot of you might be like, yeah, Evette, I love what you're saying. I get it. And someone might be like, God, another new age thing. Hold up your right hand. Hold it up. I invite you now to shift your full focus and awareness to the palm of your hand, right here. Nowhere else, only to the palm of your hand. And we're going to just sit here for a few seconds, just hold it there. Can you feel something? Some of you might be like, something feels a little bit different to the way that it felt before I had my hand up. Some of you might say it tingles. Some of you might say, wow, I feel like something is moving. Or there's a presence, there's something there that wasn't there before we started. And it might feel like it's 1%, but there's something happening. Now lift up your left hand and keep your right hand up. Now shift your full focus and awareness from your right hand to your left hand, but keep your right hand up. Your full focus and awareness is now in the palm of your left hand. Now, some of you might start to feel something is happening with your left hand. And some of you might even feel like there's a band between your two hands connecting them. You can put your hands down. Now, I didn't tell you anything about what awareness is, how to direct it, how to manipulate it, how to move it. You just knew. You knew. That's because it's a God-given gift to heal. We all have that ability. It's so natural to us that I can just tell you, just do that, and then boom, you just do it. But you don't even know what you actually did, but it just worked. It's a hardwired ability and capacity that we all have within us. There's just so much stigma and bullshit that has been associated with it that has been suppressed. Now, coming back to the point that I'm trying to make, even though the visceral system, like the body, the heart palpitations, bum, 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 when you have heart palpitations. Excluding now that it's not because of medication that you took or some kind of drug or anything like an actual substance, excluding all of that. This is something completely isolated and associated with stress. This now also can then mean there's an old trauma that needs to be healed, that needs to be addressed, an old wound. Either in your lifetime or something that you inherited from mom or dad, from your conception or during your mom's womb stages when you were in your mother's womb, or something that happened in your life. So basically what is happening now is that there's an old memory from the subconscious mind that's now being triggered. But you don't have cognitive conscious awareness. You don't have conscious recollection as to what it is. Meaning, the biology of the body now has a biochemical reaction to this old subconscious memory that is triggered by your environment. And you have a visceral physical response to this stress. Meaning your body goes into that fight or flight state, but you have no idea why. And you start to feel panic, but you don't know why am I feeling panic about. And your body's getting ready to fight or flight, and you're like, what is happening? There's no threat. That's because it's an old memory that is being triggered. Sometimes what can also happen is that the heart palpitations can come when you actually feel very relaxed. You're like, well, there was no trigger of it. What are you talking about? That's called active repair phase. Your body is so relaxed that it finally has time to process everything that you have been suppressing during the day. a lot of things can actually start to go wrong when we do relax. And it's because the body's like, oh, I finally have energy to deal with all that other stuff that you have been procrastinating and suppressing. Woo. There you go. That's why a lot of people who go on holiday, it takes them the entire holiday just to wind down. You come back from your holiday, back to work, and you're like, damn, I just started to relax. Sounds familiar? That's exactly what happens. That's because you're so hardwired to avoid, because we're biologically designed to avoid discomfort. And that includes emotions. But guys, we're biologically also designed to feel our emotions. It is the intellectual frontal cortex and all these other parts of the brain that, rationalizes overthinking. This part is now trying to run away from it. It's trying to avoid it. Whereas in our ancestors, they were pretty much reactive. If they were pissed off, boom, there was a reaction. If they wanted to say something, boof, they would just say it. Or it would just come out. It's the same with animals. They don't really suppress it. It comes out immediately. There's no pause button. They live very much in the here and now. Whereas we are now the opposite. We don't want to be in the here and now. We don't want to feel what's going on in the here and now. But that's also where the magic is, because that's where we create the best manifestations. But guys, so there you have it. I trust that it helps, but there's so much more that you can read of heart palpitations in Metaphysical Anatomy book. But this will already give you a massively great idea how it works, and also the wiring that can be taking place between you and your mother while you were in your mother's womb. So there you have it, and I hope to see you at my master classes as well. And guys, until next time, be the light that you are. Thank you guys for joining me here. And also remember to subscribe to our math membership website. You can check out so much more. There's so many free healing courses there as well. Go to evetterose.com, see all the free master classes and events that we have coming up. There's always something happening on our platform. And we love to hear from you for the Ask Evette episodes, also for the psychosomatic patterns that you would love for us to talk about, especially when it comes to these books, the research that's in it. And there's so much to be learned and so much to be shared as well. So I love your questions. Let us know what's on your mind. Let us know what you would love me to address as well. Life challenges, it's endless. Guys, thank you so much for being here with me today. And remember to subscribe so that you can stay up to date with the latest and greatest videos that's coming out just for you. Until next time, be the light that you are.